Hello friends, so I'm here with a chapter 10 reading from Midwife's Apprentice. This is titled The Boy. Remember, the author is Cushman. It's just important to give the author's credit. So, chapter 10, here we go. The Boy. After this, when the midwife was summoned to attend a mother, Alice took to stealing her way inside the woman's cottage, hiding in the shadows so as not to be noticed, watching closely to see what the midwife did, and how, and why. She took and stored in her brain and her heart what she heard the midwife say and do about babies and birthing and easing pain. She discovered that an eggshell full of the juice of leeks and mallows will make a labor quicker, that rubbing the mother's belly with the blood of a crane can make it easier, that birthwort roots and flowers can strengthen contractions in a reluctant mother, and that, if all else fails, the midwife can shout into the birth passage, "Infant, come forward! Christ calls you to the light." She found that mouse ear and willow can help stop bleeding, and that a tea of anise and dill and bitter milkwort will help when milk will not come. So, did you guys notice? I said milk correctly. I know that some of you would rag on me in class about pronouncing it the way I do, which I still think is the right way, which is milk. But I practiced this chapter before reading it, so I'd pronounce it the way that you guys tell me to. Good on you, Miss Flint. She learned that newborn infants are readily seized by fairies unless salt is put in their mouths in their cradles, that a baby born in the morning will never see ghosts, and that a son born after the death of his father will be able to cure fevers. Now, as you're reading, you're probably wondering, gee, are all of those things true? These are things that they believed to be true back in the day, that this time of the time period that this book was written. Okay, so there's not necessarily scientific fact backing this up, but this is what they knew and felt to be true based on things that they were told and was passed down to them. Just wanted to throw that out there. Alice thought the midwife had more skills with herbs and syrups and spells than Will Russet, but Will delivered babies just as well and was much kinder to the mother. Alice thought if she needed a midwife, she would rather someone like Will than Jane Sharp for all of her spells and syrups. Early one cold November day, before the pale, watery sun could light up the morning sky, Alice left the midwife's cottage and hurried to the cowshed to see Tansy's twins, now called Baldred and Bilfrith, after the saintly local hermits, and give them some parsnip tops to munch. There, huddled as close to Tansy as her calves, lay a sleeping boy, blue in his lips, frost in his hair, and tears frozen on the thin, dirty cheeks. Her coming startled him, and awake, and he jumped to his feet. "I be leaving, mistress," he said. "I took nothing, I hurt nothing, I be going." Alice grabbed his arm. "Wait, boy, I mean you no harm. Who are you?" "I be nobody, mistress, I go." "Everybody is somebody, and so are you." You guys, I love this line so much. Everybody is somebody, and so are you. So are all of you. Want some breakfast? From the sleeve of her gown, Alice pulled the parsnip tops meant for the cows and some cheese she'd saved for the cat and fed instead the hungry boy. She watched him as he ate. 6 he was, maybe a little older, for all he was so small and thin. He looked a little like her, now she thought about it. A sudden pleasure inside her warmed her hands as she reached out to smooth the boy's hair. "Next time you be much warmer nestled in the dung heap these cold days," she told him. "I know." He finished the cheese and looked up at her. "Bread?" "Bread. I'll go fetch some. You stay here." Alice ran for the cottage, found a bit of bread she had hidden away for the cat, ignored the midwife's questions and demands, and started back for the cowshed. Do you think that maybe because of Alice's past experiences, you know, her not having a family and always having to live on her own and having to find places to sleep like a dung heap, do you think that's maybe what's helping her just have this natural type of compassion toward this boy? She's really seeming to be able to empathize with him. Maybe it's her past experiences and understanding how this type of life is and how it can feel. Also, maybe she's just got a naturally kind heart, right? The boy was running down the road toward her, pursued by several much bigger boys, shouting and threatening with their pitchforks and rakes. Oh no. Beggar, thief, ragtag, they shouted as the boy crashed right into Alice and sent them both sprawling to the ground. Have off, Dick, said Alice, or I be telling your granny who drank ale she hid for herself. And you, Jack Snaggletooth, I still have that bottle of rat's blood. As the boys backed away, Alice stood, brushing the mud from her skirt with one hand and holding on to the boy with the other. Have off, I said, she repeated, moving toward them. Corpus bones, Beetle. We were but wagging him since you are no sport no more. In other words, because they're not comfortable messing with her anymore because they're kind of scared of her. They're needing someone else to bully and torment, which is awful and no excuse at all, but that's what they're telling her. And the boys moved off to torment someone else until they were found, slapped, and sent to work. When Alice and the boy, who said his name was Runt is probably a term you've heard before, referred to maybe puppies in a litter, usually the smallest one. The phrase runt of the litter means the smallest. So if he has just been referred to as Runt, he's probably super, super tiny, and that's kind of already how he was described a page back, right? When Alice and the boy, who said his name was Runt, got back to the midwife's cottage, Jane was out seeing to Kate, the weaver's daughter, who was having trouble with her milk. Alice brought the boy into the yard, cleaned his face with her skirt, and combed the straw from his hair, all the while telling him that Runt might be a good name for a small pig, but never for such a likely-looking boy as he, and that she would help him find a place to sleep and something regular to eat. But he would have to have a real name, for she was not taking anywhere anyone named Runt. What is your name? The boy asked. Alice, said Alice. Then I be Alice too. No, you cannot be Alice, for it is a name for a girl. They aren't really girl or boy names, right? You can have any kind of name. What then is the king's name? Well, Alice did not know, so she hid the boy in the chicken house and went about the village asking folks what was the king's name. Longshanks, said the baker. Hammer, said Thomas at the bridge. The devil hisself, said Brian Taylor, who was a Scot and so had reason to feel that way. Just the king is all, said several people. Edward, said the bailiff. The king's name is Edward. So in other words, all these other names, these other people have been telling her they're all nicknames for the king. But the bailiff knows his actual name, which is Edward. Edward, said Alice to the boy. Then Edward is my name, said Edward, who used to be called Runt. Alice nodded. She could see the midwife coming in the distance, so Alice spat on her fingers and rubbed a bit of stubborn dirt off Edward's cheek. Go, she said, up the road to the manor. They're hiring boys to help with the threshing. Tell them Jane the midwife sent you and bid them remember the good job she did delivering Lady Agnes's stubborn son. Now go. Edward shook his head and grabbed a piece of her skirt in his fist, but she put him off, so he straightened his tunic and went, looking back once to throw a brave, shaky grin at Alice. The returning midwife, angry at Alice for ignoring her earlier, set her to do all the least pleasant chores, roasting frogs' livers, boiling snails into jelly, stripping the thorns from dogberry roses. But Alice minded little, for she thought not of her tasks, but of Edward's face and the abundance of bread and cheese up at the manor, looking for a hungry boy's belly to fill. So she can definitely understand the type of life that formerly called Runt, now called Edward, the type of life that he lives, because she lived it. So she's wanting to help him out in any way she can. So she helped clean him up, she helped him find a proper name, and she told him a place where he could go to find some work and a place for shelter and food to eat. So Alice, she's a good one, that Alice. That was chapter 10. Keep your eyes out for chapter 11, and then 12, and then all the rest. Bye, guys.